This week on Divine, we look ahead to Mother's Day. Motherhood and the divine feminine in all its forms will be talked about, dissected and discussed in this very special episode. From sexuality to childbirth to raising our children, we look at what it means to be a woman and a mother in the modern world.
Oh, I love that you asked that question, because when I went into this, I felt really good about myself and my body, and I was open to looking deeper into, okay, how will this impact men? And really, it's not about men or our significant other. It's about the root of how will I get my needs met? How will I feel attention? I mean, there's a deep sense, and this is instinctual in us, is if we're abandoned from a tribe, if we think about, primally, then we don't have anybody. We're alone, and we're afraid of that. So when I actually started polling a lot of these men, after I got through my hump of the guy that I was with at the time, he really did like breast implants. So I had this conversation with him. It was like, well, here we are, and this is my new boundary. I need to get these out because I'm very sick. I saw my infrared. I did a lot of different types of scans, and I had infrared heat all around my breasts. They were clearly blocked, and it became like I'm in SOS mode. So I had to, I'm air quoting that, I had to for my own health. My immune system was shot. The labs that I run on patients in my practice, far beyond blood, were indicating that my immune system was shot. So it became, you know what? I care more about my health than I care about what a man thinks of me. So I was surprised when I was I had a lot of conviction about I'm getting these out. That degree of confidence is what a real partner is looking for.
HypnoBirthing is a way of reframing birth, and if you look at the vast majority of women view birth as painful, and a vast majority of people get anxious about it beforehand, and they will quite often go, well, you can't alter the way you birth, so I'm just going to go with the flow. My philosophy is that going with the flow means you're going to a destination with no rudder, no sail, no engine, nothing, and hoping you get there. And there's currents out there to change your path. So HypnoBirthing is a way of taking control of how you're looked after in birth, of educating yourself in steering a path and using visualizations, breathing, meditation and hypnosis to facilitate that. And the biggest one for me as well is that you learn how to change that power base when you go into hospital.
What do you think is wrong with the modern systems surrounding pregnancy, birth and labour?
I think what the NHS is a really, really good machine. I think it failed.
Machine? Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
And I think a lot of people are working really hard to do their best. However, I think it falls down on emotional levels of making the woman feel empowered and supported and listened to. And I think it's very, very hard for the midwives nowadays because all they're doing is writing more and more and looking over their backs. So the two are trying to do a good job, and they are. However, there's a lot of failings from mother's point of view.
It's a funny one really, because naturally it is just birthing. I mean, it's only now in this modern day that we refer to it as shamanic birthing or something different, but really birth is shamanic, birth is ceremonial, and it is very deeply spiritual and can be euphoric and psychedelic almost in some situations. But what it is, shamanic birthing, is it's basically reconnecting us with like the wisdom of nature, integrating like that ancestral knowledge of what we've always done, what we've forgotten now, and that's just bringing it back and helping us have like beautiful connections with our baby and our own bodies.
So what was it that sparked you to go down that route of birth, the shamanic style of birth? Yeah. What's involved in it as well?
So it kind of, I've always, I'm a holistic therapist, I've always been into these sort of practices anyway. And then when my first son arrived, it kind of everything just like tailored around motherhood, and my own natural kind of life unfolded into my career. So then I started helping people with their children and things like that, and it just kind of happened organically. And then everything I did kind of was always centered around my child and stuff like that. So whatever practices I kind of adopted was always then involved with my child. So it kind of naturally came that way. And I also think now the way that the future's going, obviously we can all definitely say that there's been a huge shift in humanity, and we can all feel that. So I think the children that are coming through now are also bringing with them like the change that they want to happen. Yeah. So I definitely feel like my life over the last year has been guided in a way that could be from my child. You know, the spirit of a baby is around your womb long before conception. So who knows whether my baby's directing me down this path.
It sounds like the weirdest thing to say, but I'd always known that mandated vaccines were going to come into play at some point. It was almost like a download, and I'd been part of sort of activism groups trying to get word out about informed consent surrounding vaccines. And I thought I was fighting for my children's freedoms. I'd always had this sort of handmaid's tale image of later down the line, there's going to be situations where you can't access childcare if you don't have a vaccine. You can't access bank accounts if you don't have a vaccine, because they were starting to roll these things out. Certainly in Australia, way before COVID, you couldn't get your child into certain childcare facilities without a vaccine. And it had always been in the back of my mind. And as soon as COVID, I mean, I've said this on record, as soon as COVID hit, I genuinely believed that you weren't going to be able to get out of that country without a vaccine, sort of within the space of months. And so I just remember thinking, right, if we're going to be stuck somewhere, let's say you can never travel ever again without a vaccine, where do I want to be stuck? I want to be stuck somewhere hot so that if we're homeless, we don't freeze. And I want to be stuck somewhere hot so that we can forage food. Those were my like basic requirements. It went back to this like primal sort of drive of like, right, this is clearly what's happening. There's about to be a massive government overreach of mandated medicine, which is no doubt going to lead, you know, to other things. I've been a follower of David Icke for a long time. I was aware that we were heading for this sort of digital currency for AI bullshit. And so it wasn't a leap of faith. It was almost like the COVID con pushed me. It pushed me to just take that leap and grab my kids and be like, right, fuck this, we're leaving this system once and for all.